You've landed at Spark Launch, the guide star for embracing what it means to be neurodiverse. I'm Mike Cornell, joined by CEO of Spark Launch, Chaya. Here, we navigate mental health triumphs and tribulations from all across the spectrum, charting a course through the shared experiences that unite us, and discovering how to embody the unique strengths within neurodivergent and neurotypical alike, igniting your spark and launching it into a better tomorrow. Hello there, I'm Mike.
I'm Chaya.
And today we have a guest who brings a fascinating perspective to the intersection of neurodiversity and financial leadership. Please join me in welcoming Priya Chanduraj, founder and CEO of FinTeam One, who has transformed her ADHD into a superpower for solving complex financial challenges. As president of FEI Boston and a passionate advocate for workplace well-being, she's not just building better financial systems, she's creating spaces where neurodivergent minds can thrive. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Chaya, and really honored to be on this podcast.
Welcome, Priya. And I have to give the listeners a little bit of our background. So Priya and I share a very deep history in terms of years and also relationship. Priya is a very dear friend of my sister, and we all grew up in Bangalore, India. And I've known Priya since she was 16. She would come down to my house and study with my sister and just hang out. And I remember dancing on my sister's 16th birthday with you in the house. And I've seen her blossom into this amazing person. And we happen to be in Massachusetts now, both of us. I feel nothing in life is a coincidence, and it's all meant to be. And I'm also proud that she is the finance advisor for Spark Launch, someone that I can deeply trust, not just as a person, but also for her brilliance. So welcome, Priya.
No, thank you, Chaya. I think that's too much of an honor to even think, but yes, completely agree with you in terms of how we know each other, and such a coincidence that we're here together and, doing different things right around the same time we've started our ventures as well.
Yeah. So first of all, I had no idea about your ADHD because we didn't know that term back then. We just suffered. So share a little bit of your background and what were your challenges and that moment when things started shifting within you.
Absolutely. I think I completely agree with what Chaya said. I don't think the term ADHD even existed while we were growing up. So you were just a challenged child. I mean, if you go back and ask my parents, I think the neurodivergence was not even a thing. So they were like, oh, my child is a little bit disarray. They don't listen. They don't behave, And I think our parents dealt with it very differently. And one of the things I remember, growing up for me, meant that the world was very chaotic, sometimes really overwhelming. Social dynamics was a little like it was getting too noisy or very unpredictable. But somehow I would kind of go, like the way I convinced and worked around my own self and find peace was using music, doing something to do with numbers, playing video games, to be honest. Like you won't even believe, like these manual things that you would plug in, or those Mario Brothers, there was like small thing we could only find, anyway. So those were things, and that was really my sanctuary, because I think somehow that kept me sane. And that helped. And I think I wasn't a great performer in school. I'll be super honest. If you look at my grades from up until high school, it was not great, except maybe math, because I knew you could get 100 on 100. That was the only number that you could say, yes, this is right. And I remember, I think eighth grade, I took economics instead of we have electives, and I had to pick, and I took economics. And economics, something about taking economics really just helped me. It was the patterns, it was the structure, it was just everything about the market, it was macro and microeconomics, and learning all of it. It was like a math problem solved for me. It was really easy to see the patterns, to see the numbers. And that's where I felt like I fit in the most. I felt super comfortable being in that space. And I think that's how it helped. Like I always got into trouble because I would be, like, I mean, classic scenarios of you can't really focus, you can't do things. Even sports, like, I wasn't great at. I would do some really well, but not all. And there wasn't something that I could take and say, oh my God, like I did really well while growing up. So that's why I think I found it hard. But really, the light bulb went off when I took economics, really, because I could mix my math skills with business, which was amazing for me. And after that, I decided to do commerce, which, and I did extremely well, right? I mean, more at that point, right? I did well. My scores were great. And it was just like I didn't have to work hard anymore. It just came naturally to me. I could understand it very easily, didn't have to, work on it. And inversely, like I was an introvert as well. Like, I not was, I am. And this was like my whole, like, between music, understanding the business patterns, and just, the numbers themselves. That was it. That, like, summed up where I could go to find my peace and be myself, but I didn't have to really worry about anything else.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. The one thing that struck to me was when I spoke to my sister, she had no idea about your challenges because for her, met you in college and you were brilliant and she had no idea of the history. So thank you for sharing that and the challenges. And at that age, we are all looking to fit in. And you found that pretty early on and you recognized it and you were given that option for taking an economics class. In my school, we didn't have that. I had no clue of what economics was until college. So good for you to have recognized that. But I think what happens with ADHD is you're suffering, and then something brilliant comes along that your soul is able to recognize. You know it because the contrast is so big that that's your thing.
Absolutely. And I think that was really my turning point, to be honest, to being like just a mediocre problem child to suddenly being excellent at everything was really when I took commerce, because everything about all the subjects, about accounting, about everything made so much sense to me. And I fell in love with it. So I would nobody had to tell me to do things. I would just do it, which is weird. Whether it was a bad professor, it didn't matter. I would just do it anyway. So that, I think that was the fun part that I kind of figured out. But also, I mean, to another flip side, I want to say is I think growing up, like, these terminology didn't exist. So we had to come up with our own unique systems on how we manage this. And some people manage it well, and some people don't manage it well. So I think for me, I'd had great family support system, to be honest. So I had, like, my grandmother, both my grandmothers, they were extremely supportive because they saw me compared to other kids and they knew that there was something, whatever it was. In fact, one of my grandmothers called me the tornado, like in our language. And because she would see that I couldn't stand still, I couldn't do things when I was small, right? So I would always get into trouble. So, and so she helped me a lot while I was figuring out she would protect me from my parents, for example, to, like, say, okay, she's just a child, just, let her do a thing, whatever. So I do feel that the support system plays a key role because you don't figure this out easily by yourself. And everybody is different, to be honest, because I think what works for me will not work for you, especially when you look at neurodivergence, because the way we have to find our own inertia.
Absolutely. And literally what worked for you didn't work for me because I was in commerce and my trauma continued till I fell in love with technology.
Yeah. So everyone has, like, their thing.
So what just out of curiosity, like what came first as far as, like, you discovered you were very adept at commerce, like your brain clicked with that very easily, but also what was beyond, like, finding, like, okay, that's my fit, that's what my brain actually is able to do, contrary to everything else. What else about it did you, like, really kind of connect to?
So I think where I fell in love with it, Mike, is my family comes from a list of entrepreneurs, grandparents, my dad. And something about, I didn't understand that before, like what it meant, what they did. And somehow it was like a mystery I was able to solve using economics as my really a starting point to really see the world in a different lens, where it was all about a business story, looking at a business. How does it work? What happens? Why is it required? What does it mean? Why do we have countries? What is, like everything. I would question every single aspect of why until I could find the answer. And there are some bigger whys I feel like I never found the answers, but the way I approached it through an economic lens helped me answer to a large extent my curiosity. I would say it helped me find a rhythm. I think it was like really finding the power of the patterns for me, and understanding the world, not more social or economically, social and emotionally, but more in an economic world, which made sense. So everything for me was more like a business transaction, and it's very easy to explain, like if that makes sense.
So you talk about patterns. We all have that, right? And I feel that kicks in when you're doing what you love. It otherwise the pattern recognition doesn't happen, and we all have our unique loves in this world. And so talk about like a little bit about the patterns, the weird connections that you experience so that people understand what does that mean? How does it look like?
Yeah, so like growing up, I would never sleep. Like I would have a very hard time to sleep. In fact, that's still something I struggle with because I just can't be calm. Like it's something about my brain is always wired. And so I think whether it was a math problem, I was trying to like figure out, okay, how do I solve it? And during our time, we had a lot of like theorems we had to do. So, and you just had to know them. And I was like, okay, why do I need to know this? Like, I need to figure this thing accurately. So I think that would be in my brain. I would think about, what would it do? Convert them into more like data theme, like flow of data to say. And then I would try to take my grandfather's business, and they were in like handloom and saris and fabric, really, an Indian like attire called sari. And I would try to understand that. And I would say, okay, how many would they need? What they need to do? Why do they, like just like why is it a 6 feet? Why can't it be 10 feet? And think like, why did they come up with that number? Like things like that. It would constantly be in my head as growing up. And everything I would see, I would try to convert it in numbers. Like it was the weirdest thing, Like even now, I remember all the old numbers. I remember my bank account. Like it's just something like anything I can convert into a number, it stays with me. I think that was, and that's what I call pattern, to be honest. It's like that structure to me. Taking something that is super unstructured and putting a pattern to it helped me remember it better, helped me relate to it better, helped me be a little bit more, enjoy it better. Like if that makes sense. Like I would actually be curious and be, okay, I know what this is, I know. And it was, and when I wouldn't get it, when I wouldn't be able to do it, I would try to listen to music. I mean, I would listen to Metallica, I'd listen to like, music that is something that I never listened to. I mean, I never assumed that would help me, but then there is a frequency and tune to that music that helped me calm down, or it wired me more, so it helped me solve the problem better. And it was all about me feel comfortable. And I had to find my own way because there wasn't an external way that would help me feel comfortable. So that's where I started asking these questions to myself unknowingly, unintentionally, and not with any purpose at all. It was just like, okay, how do I go to sleep? For example, would be my biggest thing. So, what should I do to my mind so that I can actually go to sleep and not just lay in bed looking at the roof the whole night? Like that was my problem I was trying to solve. So, it was these simple things, but I would sit outside, like on a balcony, and read so that I could finally, like, I would read the worst book no one ever wants to read so that I would fall asleep, and I wouldn't. And I would be asking questions about that. Like it was just these crazy things. And for me, it was this basic thing of just going to sleep as a child that I couldn't. So I think some of these signs you don't recognize. And even my parents had no idea, you know. I think like I wish if they probably they would just yell at me and say, oh, go to sleep. It's like 12 o'clock, go to sleep. Like that's all they would say, but they wouldn't understand why is she not able to go to sleep. And I couldn't even explain to them that I couldn't go to sleep. They'd be like, close your eyes and you'll fall asleep. Like that was, like that was like a standard sentence they would say. It was hilarious. But I think now, I mean, for the longest time, I thought I was sick because I have insomnia or something like that. Like I just can't sleep. And I told myself that. I kind of convinced myself that I have an issue. I'm restless. I just can't go to sleep. Until much more recently, I've made it a priority for sleep, because I do need that and it helps me to be creative as well. But I had to, it was like something I had to harness myself to and embrace myself to do as well. Just the weirdest thing. And in fact, even like all my friends will, like including Champa, who's your sister, she'll know that I was one of them who would never sleep. And she'd be like, you don't sleep. And she would fall asleep right away. Like when we would have sleepovers, 9:30, 10, she'd be like, I'm done. Like I'm sleeping. I'm like, what do you mean you're sleeping? Like talk to me. And those were the things I felt like, were signs, but
Mike has a lot to talk about sleep.
Oh, you have no idea. This is like my entire, I mean, it's still technically my life, but was like my entire childhood was just not sleeping. And yeah, I also got the just close your eyes and go to sleep, as if that's something that had never occurred to me previously. And I would just stay up for hours upon hours, usually just staring at posters on my wall or the ceiling fan a lot. My mind would just drift to about 500 different topics and scenarios and different things, just on fire usually. Get a lot, do a lot of reading, just playing a lot of like games underneath my blanket because I didn't want to cast light, just all kinds of stuff. And that was something that I mean, I still struggle with it to this day. Now I take kind of medication that helps with it. And for the first time ever, I'm sleeping semi regularly for the most part. Forever as a kid, one of my big problems was, and it's still the case, I'm tired and could sleep during the day, but when the sun goes down, my energy levels skyrocket. And suddenly, like, I'm cognitively present, like super focused, which used to confuse me so much. And until I, of course, learned a lot more later in life about ADHD and how our circadian rhythms are a little backwards sometimes for some of us. So we end up getting into those like weird patterns of essentially like nocturnalness, more or less. So how does sleep come easier for you now versus back then?
I think it is a discipline. It does not come easy, Mike. I will tell you that. I will totally accept that. So very similar to you, even now, if I start work at 9 o'clock, I'm extremely productive at night. Like I am so productive in the night that it's unbelievable. What takes me 4 hours during the day to do, I can knock it off in like an hour in the night. I'm somehow more focused. And also, like for me, I've started to realize it needs to be pitch dark. It needs to be super silent for me to sleep. Even a crackling sound from externally, I'll be like, oh, something's happening outside. Like, what's happening outside? Like, my mind is always like listening to it. So I think it was definitely a very conscious effort. I still struggle. I'm not an expert. Even now, middle of the night, I wake up and my mind is like, constantly thinking. I did want to say something about growing up that I kind of like, everything that you were saying that made, I could like relate to now. One of the things that was very tough for me was as I was trying to like figure out, like, I never wanted to take medication for anything. I hate going to the doctor. I hate taking medication. So I was like, I will try to figure out ways that I will cope with without anyone knowing. That was my thing. No one should know that I have all these problems, so to speak, or issues, or whatever you want to call it. And I was like, I'm just going to figure out a system for it. So for everything I would identify, I would say, okay, I just need to come up with a system. So I would like write down things. I would make like my own cheat sheets, issues. I would make, things that, would make sure that it doesn't repeat again, so I can overcome it by myself. But, it's like while growing up, my most like well especially during college and during my educational time, my study hours were always in the night. Like I would literally study starting at 9 p.m. till 4 a.m. That was my study time. And I used to be extremely productive. Like even I used to go overnight to Chaya's house, and her mom in the morning, like she'd give me coffee at 5 a.m. And after that, I'd go to sleep. Like I'd have a shot of coffee and then go to sleep. And her mom, like do you remember? Like I used to, come and sleep in your house and study.
Of
And so I
course.
would study through the night, and in the morning I'd have coffee and then go to sleep.
She would wake me up at 4 a.m. and make
Yeah.
coffee. And that's when you were going to go to bed. Okay, cool. One thing I want to say, ADHD is your mind is so busy, right? The only way is to exhaust it. And I think that's what you were trying to do. And that's why we have to do multiple things. And you have to tire it out in a meaningful way, right? You can tire it out in
Wasteful
doing
way.
yeah, exactly. But always finding that meaning in our life. Yeah, and that's why when I had a full-time job, I ran the scarf business. I was also an artist, did things over the weekend and as a mom, and but we have to do it, right? And you have to live in your ADHD ness and not make it not ADHD, because how long can you mask it or
Yeah.
not be it?
No, it's very true. I think for me, I think I never thought I had ADHD at all. Like that was not even like even now, if you say no, I just think that I have a lot of different passions, and I call it passion because the more passionate I am, then I go into that direction. So very similar to you, I've done, even though I had full-time job, I would take more work in my job, things completely unrelated to what I do. But I would also do volunteer. I would do choreography for kids' dances. I would do, like all these things that would somehow fulfill my passion. So it would help me, find purpose in my own way. And I think like even 2 years ago, if you had asked me, would I start something on my own and start creating a venture? I had no idea. But when I now, since I did, I feel like this is really something I was meant to do because what I some of the things that what my profession has given me from being a finance leader, it really allowed me to embrace myself. And I could be an introvert, it didn't matter because it was always data and numbers. It didn't matter whether I talked to people or I didn't talk to, like if I could always go to it and it would say the same thing over and over again. And I think that's what helped me be in my profession. And now I realized that it was not just about math. It was not just, looking at numbers. It was trying to look at it in a lens where, okay, what does it tell us? What is the pattern is it showing, right? And since I'm able to bridge that and it gives me like great insights and asking the right questions, it really helps me feel extremely comfortable. And, ADHD or not, I just think that this profession gave me so much to embrace myself being me. Now it's like my turn to give it back. And it's the way that, I feel the most comfortable is through my own venture, basically by, starting my company, trying to build a brand, trying to create that. And again, it's that different aspects that I'm trying to fulfill for my own self, but also keeping in mind what and how I would do it.
Unequivocally you, and it's you see the world in a very specific way.
Yeah.
Anybody with neurodivergence sees the world in a very specific way that is usually only unique entirely to the person that is experiencing it. And you found a way to utilize that to go, hey, let me show you how I see things and how the way I see things can help you.
Right. So I really think that, being an introvert and looking at the data and patterns and numbers really gives me like a personal refuge, and that enables me to give like business advantage to people, right? Because it doesn't matter what kind of leader you are as in an organization. It doesn't matter, what you want to do. What matters is when you give me your financial information and I review it, I can, based on the financial information, I can tell, I can say, okay, where did it go? What was the KPI? Like it's very clear. It just makes it super easy. And then depending on the goals and objectives, we can come up with strategy to help you scale and grow. And I become super creative. And something about doing that, it's like my mind go like if somebody tells me an issue, like until I fix it, I can't sleep. Even now, Mike. So it's not like I've figured it out. Like even now I'll wake up with like, the solution in my head. or I'll be like, I'll be taking a shower and I'll be like, oh, I know what to do now. Like it's like the weirdest thing. But I truly enjoy that piece a lot.
Yeah, what you talked about is so critical because in that love for doing that thing, whatever that is, you serve others. And that is the magic formula for inner peace, which I talked about at the University of Massachusetts on, how to find inner peace. And it's constantly evolving and you have to evolve with it. And that's how you keep moving forward. I feel there are these bits and nuggets it's which you have to follow to get to that next step. And then you go to that next step after that. And you keep getting out of being stuck and finding what you love and doing it for others. It's that magic formula.
I completely agree. I think it's really one, I think finding peace within yourself. It takes a long time to do it, to feel comfortable and say, yes, this is what I enjoy doing. To even accepting it, I think takes a long time. Because to be honest, to even, some of my businesses, I mean, some of my career decisions, I was like, I don't know if this is if this is good. Should I do it? Should I move? Should I not move? And I think like you don't know until certain events happen. And then you figure out, okay, this is what is good. This is what you are. And just be okay with it. But I don't know. It's like, I keep thinking when I was 22, did I know this? Absolutely not. Like I can tell you for sure, I had no idea. But what would I tell my 22-year-old would be like, you know what, you had to you had to empower yourself more. That's all I can say. And we came in an environment where that was not very easy. You had to fight for everything. You were very protected. So even for you to go out and figure out who you were was not easy, right? Like everything had a system in India. Like if you didn't fit in the system, you were a failure. And it was just simple as that. Like I took commerce and clearly I was a failure because I didn't take engineering and I didn't take, doctor. Like it was as simple as that. So I was like, okay, so in my head already, like we have this pre-notion that we are a failure. Now, what are you going to do with it? And so, first of all, you have this like high set bar. You've already like dropped off the cliff, and now you're going to have to like climb up. So it's a lot more challenging for you to do it. If you were a doctor and you were neurodivergent, I think it was easier because you already got like a high set, like, you're there already. So the change management for you is much easier. But for, somebody who is not in a doctor or an engineer, you are like, okay, who are you? Like, and then you're going to say, okay, what am I going to do? Blah, blah, blah. Now things are changing globally across the world, India as well. But that was not a thing before, right? So for us to get some confidence in even things that you're trying, for yourself, you don't know. You're just trying to say, okay, you know what? I'm just going to do this because my mom's not going to yell at me. Those would be the things that you would kind of, work on.
Yeah, I think it's critical, especially for neurodivergence, to not listen to what the society says and the expectations of others, and continue to honor our own heart and believe in ourselves and go against the system because the system's
not meant to be.
Exactly. It's not meant to be, but the world is saying, get into the system, fit into that box.
Fit yourself in. Yeah. And that's where, and for a lot of times I thought I can't fit myself in. Like, why am I different? And I would struggle with it a lot. And sometimes it's because of social pressure. Sometimes emotionally I'm not aligned. And to be honest, like when I did meet my husband, I was like, oh my God, like, I actually found someone where I can be myself to some extent, like, not even in the norms, but like 5% of myself, I can be myself. That was a huge win for me. Like, you won't believe it. And it's not like we had a perfect match, like we still have a lot of challenges. I don't think our relationship with our partners, they can even understand how we like I remember even when we were dating, he'd be like, okay, why are you so restless? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm just this, and he would say, okay, just calm down. Like even now he's like, can you just chill? And I'm like, what does that mean, the word chill? Like, I don't know what that means, And it's really challenging for me. Like he can sit for hours and not really like he's totally comfortable, and I'm like, okay, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. Like in my head, it's like constantly spinning, even though I'm just literally sitting next to him. My head is like, even with my kids, and it's just crazy that I don't think anyone except you can understand what's going in your brain. And I think that is the biggest challenge that neurodivergence people have, because one, there is no system. You got to find your own system, whether it's cleaning, whatever makes you happy, just do that. And I think I want to share a story. So one of my mentors early on, when I had my first child, I remember them saying, your child is never going to remember what you did. Like, did you change the diaper? Did you like take them? They're never going to remember. They're going to remember you being happy and being with them. So he said, you got to figure out what makes you happy and how are you going to ensure that you spend quality time with your child. And so something about what he said, said how you're going to be happy kind of stuck with me. So having all these challenges growing up, not knowing how am I happy, I think that helped me figure out, okay, what do I enjoy doing? Like, what are the things that I enjoy doing? I hate cleaning. So I was like, outsource it. I hate doing grocery shop. Like, I'm not doing, like, I was literally going through the list and figuring out things that I don't like doing, and things that I enjoy doing, and started to kind of prioritize my life around it. And it was a very simple thing that somebody told me, but I started noticing that those things helped me be me. Like, eliminating things that I didn't do because they gave me social anxiety, like whatever the case may be. And I think that process kind of helped me, but I had to do it like, it's a lot of work I had to do, but the purpose was I could be a better mother. Like, that was my purpose. So I had a purpose to do it. But I feel like a lot of people, it's harder for us to do it without having that, okay, why am I doing this? Unless you're so motivated for that why, you won't do it.
There's a lot of stuff I think we all have in life where there's a lot of other people. Like, it's essentially like if you're going through an airport and you're carrying all of your bags, also you're carrying all of somebody else's luggage at the same time. Like, that's all of those things that we do because, well, that's quote unquote normal. That's what we're supposed to do. Things we don't enjoy doing or give us social anxiety. That was a big one for me, big one for most neurodivergence, is like holding on to that and feeling like they need to put themselves in those positions when it's a really hurtful position. Even things, honestly, like, obviously most people don't like doing really banal, day-to-day maintenance activities. But for a lot of us, it goes a little bit deeper than that. Like, there's a minutia to it that is really hard to deal with. There's a lot of choice in it. Like, there are neurodivergents who have a difficulty, you mentioned like going to the grocery store. There's neurodivergents who have a very difficult time doing that because of the overabundance of choice, the fact that they don't really have control over the pace of it. That's what like frustrates me in a lot of situations is I don't like being stuck in certain paces. Like, I want to like get ahead of myself. It's like so stupid. Anytime I take a shower, it annoys me that it's like, but I almost wanted to start getting dressed before I'm like done in the shower because I want to like get ahead of the of the order of tasks. Yeah, it's like I just want to keep I just want to move, and it frustrates me to like, no, I have to go through like this process that I'm stuck in. Like, no, I have to get out of the shower and dry off, then get dressed. Like, and I feel like I'm falling behind because I just want to kind of like keep moving, and my brain just wants to keep rolling. So those things are actually really difficult for us. It's not, when we say we like don't like doing them, it's not for the same reason allistics don't like doing these things. Like, oh yeah, well, that's minutia of life. Who does enjoy honestly doing that? But for us, it's deeper. It's actually kind of damaging a lot of times. And the first step to true self-acceptance is being able to drop stuff like that and go, well, this is a thing that's hurting me. This is a position I don't really need to be putting myself in. Or how can I limit my amount of exposure to those things that are hurting me? And self-acceptance is difficult for pretty much everybody. But when you live in a world that is very much designed for people that are the opposite of you in so many neural ways, you spend most of your time beating yourself up or trying to fit into a box. Square peg, round hole. It's always that it comes back to. You find yourself trying to do that over and over and over again because that's like, why can't I fit into this when I'm supposed to? Like, it's then becomes stressful every single day, and it's so much harder. You can accept everybody else for even going through the same things, but accepting yourself for not in a deficient sort of way, like I don't match with this, so I'm less than this. I'm less than what society has deemed life to be. It's that, well, what society has deemed life to be is incompatible with me. We never look at it from that point of view. Like, well, we always look at it as we are incompatible with it. And there's absolutely nothing wrong. There's no morality to being incompatible with something. The same way they could not adjust to how we see things. Like, always being kind of the antsy and a little wired to holistics. That's like, well, that's odd. But for us, that's the baseline. Like, no, that is like us being completely like at peace and normal. It's odd for you, but just understand, like, there's nothing strange going on with me right now. This is just how I operate. Like, if anything, if you see me shut down, that means there's probably something wrong.
Wrong. Yeah.
And it's so important to be able to accept not only just to live in your strengths, but just so you don't get stuck in this cycle of pushing who you are down and not living within your strengths, but also accepting that you may have some struggles that need to be adjusted. And then that's when a cycle of self-abuse sort of kicks in. I find that for a lot of people, they find themselves dampening themselves down to the point where they stop having a personality. They will then mirror somebody else in their lives. They'll mirror a significant other and just be unhappy. And that is something that no one deserves. And so long, neurodivergent people have been forced into those roles, and particularly at places like businesses and things like that, where they get cast out because they don't fit into those particular spaces.
Yeah. And I mean, I completely agree. I think for me, the way I stumbled upon that elimination process was because of my purpose. Because I was like, okay, I need to be a better mom. And in order for me to be a better mom and a better worker, because I was employed, I was like, in order for me, so I always kept a very high yardstick for myself, because either it was my work or a work product or what I was doing, as long as that was at top notch more than anyone else could do, no matter where else I had issues, I'd be fine. In my head, that was my safe haven. So anything that compromises that, I would have an issue with, because I knew I had other issues, right? Which, whether social, other, like whatever. And I was like, I can't fix that. What I can fix is my work product or, the deliverable. So I was very proud of that. So that was always my purpose. And so anywhere I went, I would only focus on that. And so what happened is that when I had a child, it was suddenly like, now how can I do both and be good at both of these? And so something else had to go, So my purpose was like really clear, and I kind of stuck to it. And I say, okay, you know what? Even if I don't do, like, I can't be the best grocery shop. Like, I hate shopping. I'm not going to be a best grocery shopper. Like, I don't want to be, So I'd be like, get that out of my list, And like just simple things, I would start like, okay, I don't need to do this. I don't need to do this. I'm not good at this. I don't want to do this, So I started, and it was really because of, what my mentor had told me that helped me to find like, okay, these are the things that are super critical for me. And that's what helps me be me. And that helped a lot to bring clarity to me, to eliminate all these noises in my head, and to make me feel more comfortable, because, it like, even with like my child, I would have a hard time, to be, like, especially my first one, to be like, to be the mom. And I really had a great support system. Like, my mom stayed with me, my husband stayed with me, but it really helped me like figure out, how do I do this? And then I had to kind of let go of a lot of things in order for me to be better at doing simple things for them. Like, even now, there are a lot of ways, like, so many things I forget. Like, it's not even funny. Like, I'll be cleaning, and then I'll take something, and then something else pops in my head, and then I'll just leave it there, and then I'll go and start doing something else, And every single time my husband's like, why are 500 million things like all over the house? And I'm like, oh, I was supposed to clean that, like, it's just things like that. I struggle with it even today. So now I'm like super focused when I do certain things. I'm like, okay, I'm going to finish this and then, until I finish this, I'm not going to do anything else. And I created systems where, like, even studying, like if I was studying for certain things, I had to finish a subject. I couldn't jump between subjects because I'd be so deeply ingrained in that subject that I couldn't really go on and do another one. And so I had to time box myself in a different way. So I would have like cheat sheets and say, okay, for the first 3 hours, this is what I'm going to do. Every half an hour, I'm going to go for a walk and come back. I go drink water, do, things like that. I mean, now I know there's tools and there's like a bunch of things to do, but before it was literally paper and pen, and I would just write down, and I would have a watch, and I would time myself. But I really had to figure out ways for myself because there wasn't any help externally. And any ill help I got externally was fit into the mold. This is what other people do. So you just need to do that. It works. Everyone does it. So it clearly works. Why aren't you able to do it? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I'm not sure why I can't do it. And so for some time, I thought it was me problem. And then finally I said, you know what? It doesn't work. I got to figure out something else that works for me, but silently because I can't openly tell anyone. So they think that I'm in their mold, but I'm in my own mold.
I was thinking about your family support you had. You talked about your family support, and I want you to talk about how important family support is and why is it critical for parents to support a neurodivergent child, to be there for them and not force them into the system, but also learn to work with the system because it's there. We have to learn to work with it. But why is family support so important, and how did it play out in your life, even if it's those little things?
Yeah. So in general, I think, what family support does, it gives you the mental peace. And for neurodivergent people, feeling comfortable, feeling secure is super important because the minute we don't feel secure, first of all, your head is going crazy all the time. Your brain's thinking like a million things constantly, all these patterns, all these rhythms, everything in your head. Like and so the external physical security helps it to some extent. What it helps is it gives you the time to say, okay, how should I figure out a system for myself? Because no one can do it. You have to do it yourself, right? So what it does is it gives you the time. And I mean, you could do bad things because a lot of people, like, why do people do, a lot of them get onto drugs because mentally it just knocks you out, right? So that means you're not thinking. You don't have to deal with these mental issues that you have because your mind doesn't need to. It doesn't need you. You don't need to figure out a system anymore. You're just out. And so I think where family support really helps is it first of all gives you a baseline security. It's a foundation, right? It says, okay, we're here. You can be crazy. It's fine. We're here. We can help you figure out your craziness. I think that's the first thing that it helps. And for me, I had two variations. I had a very tyrant mom. And if my mom listens to this, she'll kill me for it. But I think, like, when I say tyrant mom, I think she was all about a system. She was all about a mold. She had very high expectations about what we have to do. And then I had a dad who was an entrepreneur, and he was, as long as your mom doesn't yell at me, I'm fine. Okay. So I think between like the two combination, it helped us. And also he was like, okay, whatever you want to do, you should do. That was my dad's mantra for us. So I feel that helped me say, okay, I don't need to be a doctor or engineer. I can totally be fine being a commerce person. And, that helped me started understanding things for myself and figure out, what I could do. And also, like, I never told them all these issues, right? Like, for example, sleeping issues, things like that. And they'd be like, just go and close your eyes, like, because they didn't know any better as well. They didn't have any tools, if I look back and think this neurodivergence, ADHD, that didn't even exist for them. They were like, everybody's crazy, and my child is a little bit crazier, and I would get physically like bruised a little bit with, sometimes if I totally misbehaved as a child. And And as I got older, a lot of like yelling and screaming. But I think it was mostly for them to make sure that, we are fine. And I think that foundation of security really helped a lot, because then it said, okay, even if I fall down and if I'm actually totally crazy, I'm still fine. And I have somebody who's there with me. And then now I just need to not fall, and let me figure out how do I not fall, or be totally like, crazy in front of them, So I think a lot of ways, because of that security. And I mean, to be honest, I had great grandparents on both sides, my grandmother on my mom's side and my grandparents on my dad's side. And they were phenomenal, especially my grandmas on both the sides. They are like, they really protected me a lot in a lot of different ways. And they gave me a lot of, she doesn't need to, she's different anyway. Like, let her be different, So that helped me a lot. That really helped me a lot, because then I didn't have to listen to people. I didn't have to be what they expected me to be. I could still, like, I remember growing up, like with one of my cousins who's not there anymore, which is really sad. He would take me to play marbles in the street. And when I was a girl, and then I could play marbles really well. If you give me a target, I could do it really well. And so every time people would think I would lose when I went with these small groups, and I would actually win. And there's one time we had a whole bucket full of marbles I'd won. And he was like, oh my God, like we have all these various marbles from different colors. And that's because like they didn't say, oh, you can't go do this, you can't go do this. They were like, okay, you want to go, yeah, And I just feel like that was so important, because it gives you one confidence, and it gives you security. And those are the two important things that some nerve in your brain, it helps you calm down. I'm not going to say 100%, but it definitely comes down to some extent. Even if it's 10%, 5%, it helps. Because every percentage, when you're neurodivergence, of calmness that you get is a win in my mind.
Yeah, I when you say security, and I work with chakras, and I think so do you, Priya. What I do know is with neurodivergence, their root chakra, which is your grounding, is a little bit weak because we're all in the head, right? We are in our upper chakras, and the confidence is lacking because the world is not designed that way, and we are still figuring it out. We are still in our heads. So for the families to give you that thing that you lack, which is grounding and that support and that security to be here on this planet, just being yourself, means a lot.
It does. It means a lot. And I think it helps them a lot more than the families even think about it. The support system plays such a big role. And I mean, friends make fun, people outside work make fun because they can't really understand you. Very few people actually get you from the core of who you are. But I think, your family is someone that they're always there. They can see you through your struggles too. So I feel it's super important for them to, one for being neurodivergent, like for us, but also for them, because then they're saying you can be you and it's fine. That's not a factor for us to judge you. And I think that non-judgment view is very important, because people who are ADHD and neurodivergent, I think they really need to find calm in their mind. Finding that calmness is the only way that they can harness their power as well. Whatever they do to find their calmness in their head, how they do it, what if they have to run, go run. Like if that helps you calm your mind, like just go run. Like, and I tried all of that. Like, if I run, I'm much better. Like when I run, like I'm more creative. Don't ask me why. I can't do sedentary like things. If I'm constantly moving, constantly walking, I'm better off. Like, I don't know, like I'm just better off. And so I think, it's the security that helps people to find their calmness. And even in the family gives 1% calmness to them, it's so beneficial to the person. Because that 1% will be like millionth percent in their mind, because that will help them to find and harness their own internal power.
A thought occurred to me of this is maybe like a plain Jane question, but I think it might be a fun way to wrap this up. I don't want to say advice to, but if you could kind of present day self be able to go back and comfort your younger self in a way, what would you want to say that that version of you needed?
I think I needed a lot more confidence. I also think I needed the strength to accept me and not be shy and hide from me, I think, because my brain just processes the world very differently. And I didn't know that. I couldn't embrace it. And I think that's what I would tell tell anyone. It doesn't matter they're neurodivergent or not, to be honest. I think just embracing themselves, just accept the world the way you see the world, I think is so important. And then we become more genuine for ourselves and we find peace for ourselves. I think that is really important because that really, everything aside, I think that gives you the security in your mind that helps you make better decisions, that helps you be better creative. But I think it's just really that one thing of saying, okay, I know who I am and I'm comfortable with this. I think that's what I would, and I couldn't when I was younger. So I feel like that's what I would tell anyone, no matter what.
Yeah. And now that we have all this wealth of information and knowledge about neurodivergence, ADHD, we can use this and learn to honor ourselves and our children and allow them to be who they are and not force them into things, careers, which they have no interest or passion. Of course, it's very difficult when you're younger to figure out what your thing is, but just keep looking for it because you're going to find it. And you can find it in weird places. So just put yourself out there, put your children out there till they find that spark because it's critical. And that's the only way, because that piece is unique for everybody and they can find it, but just allow for that to form in their own space because it's magical when you do that. And so thank you, Priya. But I want you to share what are you doing with your company and what's your vision and where does your creative brain want to take it?
Sure. No, thank you. So my company is FinTeam One, and basically what we do is we provide financial services for SMB market, and we want to be the go-to place for companies, especially leveraging, people's skill sets and technology. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of companies they make emotional decisions versus using their financial intelligence to make the decisions, and you see a lot of failures because of that, right? And we just want to help the failure rate go less. That's our goal. And what this profession has given me, I feel like this is the least I could do for this ecosystem because that is such a core part of globally about who we are as innovation, like everything that we can build and scale and provide. So really looking to provide financial services for companies and support them follow their own journeys, to be honest.
Thank you for being that anchor for companies because I need someone like that who's passionate about numbers. Yeah, I think this world would be such a better place if we all honored our passion, whether neurodivergent or not, as you said, Priya, because we are all unique. And I think there would not be any shortage of work or positions or jobs if we all did what we came here to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
And what are some ways our listeners can connect with you and your company?
Definitely our website, www.finteam.one. That's the easiest way. You can see what we do. And also they can email me directly. It's pchanduraj@finteam.one.
And I'll have everything in the show notes for anyone listening who is interested, which of course can always be found at sparklaunchpodcast.com. I really want to thank you for coming on. As I said earlier, you gave some invaluable advice. It always comes down to understanding yourself and trusting yourself to explore what will eventually ignite your spark in whatever way that happens to work out for you. So thank you for letting us in on your journey. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Chaya, for this opportunity. And again, super excited to be part of Spark Lounge.
We are blessed.